Okay, hello again at the end of day 22. So if you tuned into my last video, you would have seen that I was very confused with the unreliable tool calling behavior of Gemini 2.0 Flash. Today, I tried to reproduce that behavior and it was just working. I went through all my commits that I did on Saturday for 12 hours, going around in circles, going insane, and it all just works now. So that suggests that there was something wrong with Google Gemini on Saturday. Briefly looked around for any evidence of that and couldn't find any evidence of it on the internet. Did actually ask on the Cursor and Pipecat Discord servers, and one person did mention on the Pipecat server that they did have some issues with Gemini on Saturday, but who knows. Anyway, all's well that ends well. So let's have a look at what I did today. Okay, so the first thing I did was revert the increase to the max tokens, which I thought might fix the issue I was having on Saturday, because this is actually the maximum output tokens. So this means that the default is 4096, and that's plenty. That's multiple times the system prompt, so that's plenty for the bot to say in its output, I think. And then after that, because all of my node configs were in a mess, or the node prompts, I rewrote those with the assistance of Google AI Studio so that they are much better now. So the role prompts are customized for each node, as well as the task prompts also being customized for each prompt. Instructions are much more succinct now. And also with respect to the examples, what I'm doing is getting the user's name and the bot's name and using that in the chat example so it's clearer how that's to be used. And also I'm using the full name and then the first name in the example so it's clear how the first name should be used when addressing the caller. Now, as I read this, it does occur to me that what happens if the bot's name is the same as the caller's name? So if they're both called Marissa, the bot's name's Marissa and someone called Marissa calls, that could be an issue. So I'm also going to have to add a little case check. If the bot's name is equal to the username, then do something special there, like use bot. So this was then all working to my satisfaction. And the next thing I wanted to add, though, the last feature before I put this live on my website, is smart turn detection. And there's a couple of strategies for this, and I wanted to use the one that I was using on day one of this series, demonstrated by Quinn Kramer, the CEO of Daily, and that was when he showed off the 22D example. Now, what this does, there's three parts to this. You use Google Gemini Flash 2.0 in three places. You use it as a transcriber to transcribe the audio, and it transcribes the audio intelligently using the context to determine what it thinks the most likely thing the person said is. It uses it as a classifier to intelligently determine when the user has finished speaking. So for example, there are examples here in the system prompt for that LLM, the classifier LLM, which give examples of mailing addresses. Here, so mailing addresses when the user is finished, and phone numbers, and also credit card numbers. And that's the sort of training you can put into these models in these complex pipelines. And then it's also using the Gemini Flash model as the conversation model. And it puts all that in a complex pipeline. And I got this working. I only had a couple of issues. The main issue I had was that the transcriber model was running out of credit. So apparently that burns through your Flash credits much quicker. And essentially after just a couple of things I said, it would give me a 429, check your quota. So also another thing I noticed was that in the consent node, when I said that's fine, it would say yes, that's fine, was what I said, and that won't do in production. So either way, what I decided to do then was go back to having a text-to-speech component doing the transcription, and then I'm going to have Gemini still doing its thing in terms of determining whether or not the user has finished speaking. And there's actually an example of that also in Pipecat Examples Foundational, 22C instead of 22D. The only thing is that they are here using the Anthropic model, I believe, as the statement LLM. SDT is still deep RAM though, so that's cool. And then they're using OpenAI GPT-4o as the conversational LLM. And I'm going to be using Gemini 2.0 Flash for both of those components in my complex pipeline. So yeah, that is what I'm going to work on next. I do still have a couple of issues though, so I can't demonstrate it today. And this is going to be the last feature, along with having an end of call report added in here before I add it to my website. And then I'll have to run a VPS, install the server on there, and then hook our communication up to my website so that it can navigate around the site. And then once that's done, that'll be version 0.1. And then I will look at adding availability checking on the calendars using cal.com, and also reluctant appointment booking, where if users ask whether or not they can book appointments through this, it will say, sure, we'll try, but I'm not great at capturing email addresses. But of course, with the smart endpoint detection, you might actually be good at that. Who knows? So yeah, that's it for today. Cheerio.